Hello everyone, welcome to Dave's Geek Stuff, and in my last video I built this wall and then we used this virtual ball here to knock the wall down with some simulation tags that were effectively simulating the physics of the real world, well at least Newtonian physics. I wanted to try to recreate the double slit experiment with Cinema 4D and it didn't work, so they're not really rendering for quantum effects, but I'll let them off that. Anyway, in this video I'm just going to kind of improve the look of the scene a little bit and talk about cameras and rendering and some other bits and pieces like that. So first thing I'm going to do here is do Control D and then just check here in the project settings. Now I've already set the frames per second to 25 because I'm in the UK, and over here our standard frame rate is 25 frames per second. In North America and certain other areas of the world it's 29.97, or some people just say 30 frames per second. I'm going for 25 with this, which means I've also got to go to the render settings. So I'll go edit render settings. I'm going to make it 1920 by 1080 and I'm going to make it 25 frames per second, and I do want it to render all frames when I decide to render it out. And we got lots of other settings down here on the side. For now I'm just going to go to anti-aliasing and I'm going to click on best, and that will give us, you will see down here it's slightly grayer. I hope that comes through on the video, but I'm going to reposition this so this is pretty much our view window. There are other ways of doing that, so that's basically what we'd get if that frame was rendered, and so on. So something I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a thing called baking the dynamics, which basically means it's not working out all the collisions between the bricks and the ball and everything on the fly. If I click on any of these dynamics tags, I can go to cache and I can go to bake all, and it will bake the dynamic simulation, and now it will play without having to actually calculate it all on the fly, which when you get into sort of more expensive in terms of processor usage rendering techniques, the fact that it has to calculate the physics at the same time as trying to do all the other things can slow things down a bit. Okay, I'm going to put a camera in the scene. So a camera, at the moment I haven't got a camera, I'm just looking at via the default view, what would be the sort of the default camera. But I'm actually going to put a real virtual camera in as an object, and I'm going to select that. And I'm going to get pretty close to the wall. I don't really want to see this edge here. So I'm going to get over here and get in, so kind of looks like that. And then now if I run across, we're actually seeing the ball going in slightly off center, which is how I'd like to start anyway with the camera position. So the coordinates on that, I'm just going to zero that out because it's slightly rotated. I'm going to pull it back a touch. There we go. So I'm really happy with that position. So make sure the camera's selected. I'm going to set the keyframe by clicking on Record Active Objects, and then I'm going to move the cursor forward, the time forward to the end, and I'm going to pull back a bit and maybe angle up a touch and pull back a touch more. There we go. So it's nicely centered. And then I'm going to hit that button again, and that will move the camera between the two. If I hit that button at any time, it will render what that frame will look like. So the next thing I'm going to do is give it some depth of field. If you've ever used a camera, one of the nicest things with cameras is where you get something in focus in the foreground and all the background is out of focus. And so if I go to the render settings again, instead of standard up here, I'm going to go to physical, and I'm going to go to physical here, and I'm going to enable depth of field. I'm going to make sampling quality medium, and I'm going to have the physical ray tracing engine. I'm going to go and try and make this look as good as possible, even though the materials aren't that great and it's not a fantastic scene, but just to kind of give you the idea of what the camera can do. What I'm going to do as well is I'm going to put a box in here, which is just going to do nothing at all. It's just going to be ignored. I'm actually going to hide it. So that cube is going to be hidden. But I'm going to use that as the focus object for the camera. So it's always going to be focused in the middle. So if I select the camera, as I've done here, and I go to object, and I can drag in that cube into the focus object. So I'm going to rename that focus object. And that will always make sure that the camera is in focus to that particular object. So when I go up to here, what I want to get is these bricks in the background out of focus, and some of this here and some of this here out of focus, and this area here to be the bit that's in focus. So if I just click render on that now, you see it's starting to get a bit slower. In fact, for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to roll back on some of this a little bit, just for now, because it will be a lot quicker. As you can see, we're not really getting any depth of field, and the reason is because I haven't really set any settings on the camera. I just turn depth of field on, but what you have to do is you have to set the shutter speed and the f-stop, and really I want to go as low as I need with the f-stop, and I want to go really quick on the shutter speed to try and get some depth of field. And we're starting to get a little bit of depth of field now. It's starting to happen. I mean, if I was to zoom right in here and do that, if that was part of our scene, you'd really start to see it because we're close to the object. But to get it at that kind of distance, when we're sort of here, I might even have to bring this f-stop down quite a bit further. Maybe that's too much. That looks pretty cool to me for now. That's nice. I'm going to play with the lights a little bit. I'm going to make them all just a little bit bluer. A slight sort of greeny blue. Well, that makes the scene look very cold. Okay, what if I went the other way? I went slightly more orange. Yeah. So now we have a scene that sort of looks a little bit better. We've played about with the lights. We've given it some depth of field. Yeah, I quite like to render that. I'm not sure about the camera position that yet though. I think that's a bit too far out. So let me go to the timeline. in the timeline over from my other monitor. I'm going to delete that end camera position, so it's, and I'm just going to zoom out and rotate round slightly. I might think it looks nicer down there like that, so maybe a touch up, but not too much. This is the thing when you're animating, you can just play about and look at things and go, oh, that's nice. I'm not by any means an artist at all. In fact, I'm pretty bad at drawing and anything like that. So I find myself using a lot of trial and error and just trying things and little details and how does that look. And I'm sure there's other people out there that can just do it, and maybe they've got a lot more experience than me. So they just go for what they want and they get it straight away. But I like just tweaking here or there. I wonder what it would be like if I just, move that by 0.5 centimetre or change the colour of that light. I'm thinking at the moment I quite like the floor to be sort of almost reflective. An actual reflective surface, like a completely black floor, or maybe a tinge of blue. Get it really reflective and turn down this bump. Let's see what that looks like. That could be quite interesting. It's looking nice. Turn down the roughness a tiny amount. Oh, I like that. I do like that. So now I do that and I render that bit there. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Right, so I'm going to render that out now. So I'm going to go to Render. I'm going to go to Edit Render Settings. I'm going to change that to Physical. I'm going to change that to Medium, just because I think it will look significantly better. Another thing you can use is ambient occlusion. Yeah, that can add a little bit of time to the rendering, but it does make the lights look that little bit better. I don't know whether that's overkill considering the materials really don't look good at all. But I don't know, I'll leave it on and then we'll go for a render. So I'm going to go to Edit Render Settings, and in here now I've put in the path where I want these files to be saved. They're going to be PNG files, and then I can add it to the render queue. I'm not going to click on Team, I'm just going to let this computer do it. Which will take a little bit of time. So yeah, we'll be back when that is done. Wow, well, that took ages to render, much longer than I expected. In fact, I did stop it after a few frames after it was saying it was going to take about 8 hours, and I reduced the quality very slightly here or there, and it's just taken about 4 hours to render. So let's have a look. I've got up here Adobe Premiere, and I'm going to double click on there and import an image sequence, which is what Cinema 4D generated. And that's what it looks like, fully rendered. Let's play that full screen. Looks pretty cool. So yeah, that's how to have better lighting, better materials, depth of field, and a number of other things, and then render it out to a PNG sequence, which you can import into something like Premiere, which you could then render to an MP4 file to upload to YouTube or for whatever else you want to do. Hope you enjoyed that video. Please like it and subscribe, comment if you want, and yeah, check out some more videos. See you soon.